Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Schwartz and welcome back to my channel. Today our video tutorial comes from a user named Lyrique Jackson, and they asked, can you draw the cast of Assassination Classroom? Well, I can't do the entire cast in one video, but I definitely can do the main character, Koro-Sensei. So, ladies and gentlemen, grab your pencils, meet me on the other side of this scene transition, and let's get started. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to draw Koro-Sensei. My materials I'll be using are a normal kneaded eraser, my click eraser just for a little bit more control and for a tip that I don't have to continuously readjust, and a mechanical pencil of your choice. In this case, I'm using my Pentel Sharp Carry. I feel like being fancy today. So the thing with Koro-Sensei is his design, especially for his face, is very, very simple. But it's deceptively simple in that it is a circle, but circles are hard for a lot of people to draw. So my recommendation to you, honestly, is I wish I had a better solution than what I'm going to present, but the best way to draw a circle well each and every time is to just draw a lot of them. I wish there was a simpler or faster solution, but an instructor I had in college literally just put it this way. You want to get better at drawing something? Draw it 50 times. You want to get better after that? Draw it 50 more times. You might get sick of the object by the end of it, but you will have gotten really, really good at drawing it. So the way that I draw my circles is I sculpt them out by just doing very quick, scratchy lines, making sure that it's never going too flat on one side, and if it does, I can readjust it. The key is to be quick and loose while you're constructing your circle. You don't want to try to press too hard with your pencil or try to make it so the first time you lay down a line, it will be the finished product. All that's going to do is set you up for sadness later on, I can promise you that. I can then come back through with my kneaded eraser, fix up the outline by getting rid of the parts of it that I don't need, and then do a very quick wipe over, just like this, so I can come back through and make a nice clean line on top now that I have my basic lines set up below. This way I can have a nice consistent circle that looks pretty good. It will never look perfect, but that's okay. I love the tagline or the mantra that Jake Parker in one of his videos talked about. Finished, not perfect. It's one of the best lessons and also one of the hardest lessons that any artist can learn to do. So Koro-Sensei, very simple head, very simple design overall. His head literally is a smiley face, but there's one little trick to the way his face looks with his normal smiley face that can make your design for him really stand out from the rest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide his face right down the middle, and he has very, very tiny eyes, super tiny. They are about just slightly below the middle of his face, and they're going to be, one will be here, and one will be in about the same spot on the other side. Now, the key with his mouth is that you would think that you would just do a normal smiley face and you would call it good, but there is something that that the artist does with the corners of the mouth that makes him look very cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the mouth all the way out on the side of the face, and we're going to sweep it down to the middle, and we're going to try to copy the same curve that we drew on the left over on the right. And on the ends of the mouth, instead of having them just stop, have them curly Q up a little bit. I'm actually going to pull this line a little bit further over to the side. There, adjusted the light source a little bit, that should help. So I'm actually going to curly Q these up a little bit like so. And then when I draw the bottom of the mouth, instead of starting it here, I'm actually going to start the line right here. So the end of his mouth actually ends in a point rather than the bottom line moving all the way up. Doing so gives his trademark smile just a little bit of a hint of malice or some sort of sinister nature to it. I'm actually going to drag this a little bit over to the side before I curl it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the top line of Koro-Sensei's mouth and not make it dip down quite so far. Something about that was just bothering me just a little bit. Always feel free to go back through and clean things up. No one will ever judge you. Your harshest critic is always going to be yourself. There we go. That's better for me. So I'm going to come up here and we're going to do Koro-Sensei's graduation professor's cap, which is just going to be a semicircle. Comes down on his head like this. Then it doesn't go straight up. It tapers a little bit towards the middle. And then on the top is actually going to be a triangular shape like this that angles like so. Moves off to the side just a little bit. And then it moves back towards the middle in equal measure until they meet. And that is the basics of Koro-Sensei's cap. On the top here, we're going to draw a little bit of a cylinder. And draw another cylinder shape here on top. And then we're going to draw the string that moves off the side of the cap. Once it reaches past the edge of the cap, that's when it will move downwards. Don't have it move downwards too early, otherwise it won't look quite as realistic. Curls down, circle, circle, tassel, circle, circle, tassel, resting right there on the side of his very round head. And there we have the basics for Koro-Sensei's head shape. So we are going to erase this part. We don't need that anymore. And now that we've zoomed out enough, we're going to go ahead and do just a little bit of his body. We don't really need to do a lot of it, but we're going to do just enough so you can see his uniform, and then we're going to do 1 or 2 hands over here on the sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line straight down. This can help me keep the symmetry of his costume. So right here and here, we're going to draw a triangular shape. And then underneath the triangular shape, we're going to draw his tie, which is basically somewhat of a heart-like shape. And then on the sides of the tie, we will draw his collared shirt, which goes here and here. And then to figure out where we go from there, we need to draw the sides of where Koro-Sensei's costume is. He has very sloped shoulders because he is very, I would say he almost looks like a bit of an Octodad situation where he would just be made up of just entirely tentacles. I haven't read all of Assassination Classroom, so I don't know for sure what he actually looks like underneath his costume. I do know there was apparently some big twist at the end. When I was looking up references for Koro-Sensei, I saw something about his face being held in front of what looks like a normal manga protagonist, so maybe I'll have to read to the end to see what that's all about. But we're going to draw almost like a cloak shape. He doesn't have much of a neck. And then what I can do is from right at the corners here, where you see the head of Koro-Sensei joining with the body, is where I can draw the collar. From the edge of the collar to where the edge of his body is, that's where we draw those. And then we continue down from there to show that this is the robe section of his cloak. Here's the collar, tie, and this is the robe. We're not going to actually see this part, but we need to make sure that they join at the right spot, because even though they're going to be covered by the tie, they need to look like they would actually be in the right position if the tie were not there. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I did forget something. We need to zoom in a bit, because I need to draw in Koro-Sensei's teeth. Gotta have those teeth. Luckily, the teeth are very simple. But instead of drawing them flat, up and down all the way across, what I would recommend is you angle them very slightly as it moves up across the head. And now we're going to draw the rest of the tie shape, which is going to, from the bottom edge of our heart-like shape, it moves outwards and then in. It's not a very big tie. We can erase that part out of there now. And then the symbol is a half moon shape. So once again, instead of trying to draw just the half moon, what I would do is try to draw in a quick circle shape and then draw the half moon out of it. That way you're not trying to, by trying to just draw the half moon shape, you can end up making it a lot harder for yourself because of where the ends of the moon can end up. It won't be in exactly the right position. Then from behind there, we have the two parts of the robe, excuse me, that move outwards. And then from behind the tie, we have these two strands of fabric here and here that move out. And to make it look like it's fabric folding around fabric, we're going to extend it further out than the edge of his cloak here. I draw a little bump and then draw it coming back in. So bump and then back in. Just like that. But what we can do to make it look like fabric is actually folding around is to draw a little line just like this. And then do just a little bit of shading to show that this is three-dimensional fabric that's moving around other three-dimensional pieces of fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edge of his cloak and curve it outwards on both sides just a tad. And for the parts of his cloak that we do see before we get to the tentacles, we can put some blue stripes in. We want to try to make these stripes, again, don't make them straight lines. Have them angled just a little bit. Have them have some sort of curve to it. And what that will do is that will, again, reinforce the idea that this is a three-dimensional piece of fabric. As opposed to you work so hard to indicate and suggest a three-dimensional form and then you just draw flat shapes, and that can ruin the illusion that you've worked so hard to obtain. If you want to see what Koro-Sensei looks like without those lines in the way, there we go. Now we can go ahead and draw in his tentacles. So once again, just like with Appa and with any character, instead of drawing the arm first, I'm going to draw the middle line that shows the direction that the tentacles are moving in. His tentacles are skinnier up at the top and then get much, much wider when they get down to the base. So I'll have my line be very close at the top and then get very, very wide when it moves away. I'll do this on both sides. And in this case, I'm going to have the tentacle moving in a slightly different direction because you don't want them to be perfectly symmetrical. That's not interesting. At least for these tentacles, you want to make them more lively, so don't draw them going exactly the same way. Alright, so I've gone ahead and zoomed in, and what I'm going to do is Koro-Sensei's tentacles are made up of two ball shapes at the base, just like this. And then there are two tentacles, two fingers extending from the tentacles themselves, one from here and one from here. Skinnier, where they connect into the base of the hand and get very, very bulbous when they come out to the edge. Very, very skinny, get very, very bulbous. And then beyond that, there is an additional little nub underneath each of the main ends of the tentacles. Then what you would do is you would erase the middle part there, as well as the middle line connecting the two. You can keep a little bit of the top line to suggest the shape and form. But these are rather unusual, so if you don't draw them exactly like mine, I think it will still look just fine. But we do need to get rid of that right there. Very unusual fingers this gentleman has. Let's do the same on this side over here. 2 balls, 1 here, 1 here. Fingers are going slightly different directions than the hands on the right, than his right hand, I should say. Bulbous at the top, very skinny at the base. Same for here. Has that extra nub here and here. And fix all of that up. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. And there we have our completed Koro-Sensei, ladies and gentlemen. He's not a very complicated character to draw. Really, the hardest part, in my opinion, is just getting his head shape right. And even then, I'm looking at mine, and I see that maybe it would look better if his head tapered in just a little bit more than I had it before. I had the head going very bulbously outwards. So I'll just taper in the sides right now. There we go. There we go. Excuse my voice, ladies and gentlemen. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go and jump into the inking process, and then we'll come back for some final thoughts. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you draw Koro-Sensei from Assassination Classroom. Once again, I want to thank the user Lyric Jackson for the suggestion. That was really nice of them. This is a really cool character to draw, a little bit outside of the wheelhouse of just the traditional anime character. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. I hope you enjoyed the other stuff that I've been putting up, like the book vent gift bags that I'll be doing. I'm really looking forward to doing more of those, but I have to finish the book in question first. So, thank you very much for all of you that have watched this video. This has been Mr. Schwartz, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Have yourselves a good day.